In 36 years on this bench, I have never been afraid of power. I have had lawyers try to intimidate me. I have had wealthy men try to charm me. I have had people walk in here believing that money or status or connections would change what happened to them. They were always wrong. But I never, not once in all those years, expected what happened that Wednesday morning. A phone call in the middle of an active hearing from a sitting United States Congressman asking me to make a case disappear. If you believe that justice should look the same for every person who walks through that courtroom door, regardless of who they know or what they have, I want you to subscribe to this channel right now, because what happened that day is something every American needs to hear. The young man's name was DeShawn Carter, 24 years old. He came to the podium in a blue work uniform, the kind with a small patch on the chest, clean, pressed, but worn at the elbows. He held a folder with papers organized neatly inside. That told me something right away. He'd prepared. He'd taken this seriously. His charge was simple: 5 parking tickets over 4 months, all in the same area near St. Augustine Medical Center here in Providence. Total fines with penalties had grown to nearly $900. He couldn't pay, so he'd come to court. I asked him to tell me what was going on. He stood up straight, looked me in the eye. "Your Honor, I'm not here to say I didn't do it. I parked in those spots. I know that. But I'd like to explain why, if that's all right." "Go ahead," I said. "I work the overnight shift at the hospital, patient transport. I move people from rooms to imaging to surgery to wherever they need to go. I start at 10 at night and finish at 6 in the morning. The employee lot is about a quarter mile from the entrance. The path between is not lit well at all. There have been 2 incidents near that lot in the past year, both at night. I'm not going to walk through there alone at 2 in the morning to get to my car, so I've been parking on the street nearby. I know it's permit parking. I didn't have another answer." I studied him. "Have you reported the safety concern to the hospital?" "3 times, Your Honor. In writing twice. Nothing changed." "And these tickets, you couldn't pay them when they were issued?" "No, sir. I send money home to my grandmother every month. She raised me after my mother passed. She's 71 and has diabetes. The money helps with her medications and groceries. What's left over I use for my rent and bus fare. $900. That's more than a month of my take-home pay." I sat back for a moment and let that settle. This is the part of my job that I don't think people understand when they picture a courtroom. They picture arguments. They picture lawyers in suits making clever points. They picture dramatic rulings. But most of what I do is listen, really listen, to the story underneath the paperwork, to the human being standing behind the charge. DeShawn Carter was not a reckless person. He wasn't lazy or careless or entitled. He was a young man trying to do his job safely while taking care of an elderly woman who had given him a home when he had none. I was about to speak when Officer Reyes, my bailiff, appeared at my left side. He leaned in close. "Judge," he said quietly, "there's a phone call for you. They say it's urgent. It's regarding this case." I frowned. I have taken perhaps 4 phone calls during active hearings in 36 years. All 4 were genuine emergencies, someone in the hospital, a safety situation, something that truly could not wait. "Who was calling?" I asked. Officer Reyes lowered his voice further. "He says he's Congressman Gerald Booth, sir, from the district office." The courtroom was small enough that people heard. I saw heads turn. I saw DeShawn Carter's eyes go wide with something between confusion and alarm. I felt something tighten in my chest. Congressman Gerald Booth had represented our congressional district for 11 years. I had met him twice at civic functions. Friendly man, good at shaking hands and saying the right things in the right rooms. What I could not imagine was why he was calling me during a parking ticket hearing. But I've learned something over the years. When something feels wrong, shine a light on it. "Put him through on the speaker," I said. "I want the record to capture this conversation in full." Officer Reyes connected the call. A smooth, confident voice filled the courtroom. Judge Caprio, thank you for taking a moment. I'll be brief. I understand you have a young man named DeShawn Carter before you this morning. I know DeShawn. Good kid. Works hard. I've spoken with some folks at the hospital about the parking situation there, and I just wanted to put in a word. This is the kind of case where a little flexibility could go a long way. I think we both know this young man deserves a break. The room was completely silent. I took a long, slow breath. Congressman, I said carefully, I want to make sure we're all clear on a few things. This call is being recorded as part of the official court record. Mr. Carter is standing right here and can hear everything you've said. Is there anything you'd like to reconsider before continuing? A brief pause. No, I stand by what I said. DeShawn's a good person, and I just want to make sure he's treated fairly. I see, I said. And how do you know Mr. Carter? Well, I know of him. The hospital staff spoke highly of him. So you don't know him personally? Not personally, no. Have you reviewed the actual case file? I've been briefed on the general situation. Congressman, let me ask you something directly. I kept my voice level, calm. In all your years representing this district, how many times have you called a judge during a hearing to advocate for a constituent? Another pause. Longer this time. I make calls on behalf of constituents regularly, to judges, during active hearings. He didn't answer that, because I want to be precise, I continued. What you have done this morning is call a sitting municipal court judge during a live proceeding with the defendant present to suggest how I should rule. I want you to hear me say that clearly so there is no confusion about what has occurred here. Judge, I think you're reading too much into a friendly call. Congressman, my voice changed. Everyone in that courtroom heard it change. I have been on this bench since before some of these people in my gallery were born. I have presided over tens of thousands of cases. I have never, not once, taken a call like this one. Because calls like this one are not friendly. They are pressure. They are a person with power suggesting politely that power should influence a legal proceeding. And it doesn't matter how polite the suggestion is. What it is wrong. DeShawn Carter was staring at the phone on my bench. His face was hard to read. Part of him, I think, had a moment of hope when he heard a congressman had called on his behalf, the way any of us might feel if someone powerful stepped in to help. But then I watched something else move across his face. Discomfort, almost shame, as if the call itself and what it implied had diminished him rather than helped him. He raised his hand slightly. Your Honor, I need to say something. Go ahead, son. I didn't ask anyone to make that call. I don't know how the congressman even knew I was here today. I don't want to win this way. I came here to explain myself and let you decide. That's all I wanted. I looked at him for a long moment, and I thought, this young man, working nights, sending money to his grandmother, filing written complaints about a dangerous parking lot, standing here in a pressed work uniform with a folder of organized documents. This young man has more dignity right now than the congressman on the phone. I know you didn't ask for it, I told him. And that matters. I turned back to the speaker. Congressman Booth, I'm going to close this call now. But before I do, I want to say one more thing, and I want every person in this courtroom to hear it. Go ahead, Judge. If you truly want to help the DeShawn Carters of this district, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. Don't call judges. Fix the parking lot. Put in the lights. Add security to that path from the hospital entrance to the employee lot. Work with the city on permit parking solutions for night shift healthcare workers who have no other options. That's what a public servant does. That's the work. Making one phone call to try to make one set of tickets go away does nothing for the next young man or woman in the same situation. Do you understand the difference? A long silence. I hear you, Judge. Good. This call is concluded and will be submitted as part of the court record. Goodbye, Congressman. Officer Reyes disconnected the line. The courtroom was quiet for a moment. Then someone in the gallery started clapping. And another person. I raised my hand for order and they stopped, but I understood it. People are hungry. They are genuinely hungry to see someone with authority say that rules apply to everyone. That access and influence don't quietly decide outcomes behind the scenes. They wanted to know it was still possible. I took a breath and turned fully to DeShawn. Mr. Carter, I owe you an apology. He blinked. Your Honor? You came here today prepared to stand on your own, to explain yourself honestly and let the process work. And instead, you got caught in the middle of something that had nothing to do with justice and everything to do with politics. That's not fair to you, and I'm sorry it happened in this room. He pressed his lips together and nodded. Now, I said, let's talk about your actual case. I looked at the file carefully. 5 tickets, same block, all between midnight and 5 in the morning. Photos in the file showed a poorly lit stretch of sidewalk, construction fencing on one side, a gap between buildings on the other. I asked the prosecutor if there was any prior record on Mr. Carter. None. I asked if the hospital had responded to his written parking complaints. No documentation of any response. I sat quietly for a moment, thinking about what justice actually looked like here. Not what a congressman wanted, not what would look good, what was right. Mr. Carter, I said, here's my ruling. I'm dismissing 3 of these 5 tickets. The reasons are these. You identified a genuine safety concern. You reported it properly through official channels. You received no response, and you had no reasonable alternative given your work hours and the conditions of that lot. The law allows me to consider circumstances, and these circumstances are real. He exhaled slowly. However, I am not dismissing all 5. You knew the signs were there. You made a choice, even if it was the best available one. Responsibility still matters. So you will pay the remaining 2 tickets. I'm reducing each one to $75. That's $150 total on a payment plan of $20 a month. Can you manage that?
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely.
Good. I paused. Now I want to ask you something personal. Your grandmother. What's her name? He softened immediately. Lorraine, sir. How is she doing? She has good days and hard days. The diabetes is managed, but it takes a lot. She doesn't complain, though. He smiled a little. Never has. She sounds like a remarkable woman. She's everything, Your Honor. I reached into my desk. I keep a small discretionary fund for moments like this. Contributions from community members over the years who wanted to help in quiet ways. I wrote a voucher for $250 made out to Mr. Carter. This is not from the court, I said, handing it down to Officer Reyes to pass forward. This comes from a fund contributed by people in this community who believe in helping their neighbors. I want you to use this for Lorraine's medications this month, and I want you to give her a message from me. He was holding the voucher carefully, like it might dissolve. Tell her she raised someone worth being proud of. Tell her that a judge in Providence said so. DeShawn Carter, 24 years old, overnight hospital worker, grandson, looked down at that voucher and completely fell apart. Not loudly, he was too composed for that, but tears came and he didn't try to stop them. He just stood there and let them fall, and nodded, and pressed his hand to his chest. Thank you, he said. Thank you, sir. I had to compose myself as well. I'll admit that openly. After we adjourned, an older woman approached the bench. She'd been sitting in the back row the entire hearing. White hair, a cane, the kind of face that has seen a full life and isn't in a hurry anymore. She waited until the room was nearly empty. Your Honor, she said, I came in today for a speeding ticket on my granddaughter's behalf. We'll be back next week for that, she smiled. But I had to say something before I left. Please, I said. My late husband worked nights for 30 years, factory work. He used to say that the night shift workers are the invisible ones. Nobody sees them come, nobody sees them go. They just keep the world running while everyone else is asleep. Her voice was steady but full. What you did for that young man today, and what you said to that congressman, my husband would have stood up and cheered. She put one hand briefly on the edge of the bench. God bless you, she said simply, and walked out. 2 months later, I received a letter from the administration of St. Augustine Medical Center. Following contact from Congressman Booth's office and a separate inquiry initiated by our court, they had completed a safety assessment of the employee parking area. Improved lighting had been installed along the full path between the building and the lot. A security escort system for overnight staff had been established, and a block of closer parking had been designated specifically for employees working between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. The letter thanked the court for bringing the matter to their attention. At the bottom, someone had added a handwritten note. It wasn't signed with a full name, just initials and a department. Patient transport, 3rd floor. We all thank you. I keep that letter. I also heard from DeShawn Carter directly, about 4 months after the hearing. A short note written by hand on plain paper. Your Honor, I wanted you to know that Grandma Lorraine is doing well. The new parking setup at work has made everything easier. I sleep better knowing I'm not choosing between safety and my job. I told her what you said. She cried. Then she made me write this letter because she said a man like that deserves to know his words landed. Thank you for seeing me. Not the case. Me. I've thought about that phone call many times since that morning. I've thought about what would have happened if I had taken it privately, if I had listened to a friendly voice make a friendly suggestion and quietly adjusted my ruling. Nobody would have known. The congressman would have felt like he'd done a good deed. DeShawn might have walked out with all 5 tickets dismissed and never known why. And the next overnight worker at that hospital, the one without a congressman making calls, would have stood in that same courtroom with the same situation and gotten a completely different result. That's the rot that starts when we let influence into the room. It doesn't announce itself. It comes in quietly, wrapped in the language of helping, of advocating, of doing someone a favor. And then justice stops being justice. It becomes a game where the outcome depends on who's playing, not what's right. My father came to this country speaking almost no English. He worked in a textile factory for 22 years. He believed, deeply believed, that this country offered something rare in the world, the idea that you could stand before the law and be treated the same as anyone else, that who your family was, what you owned, who you knew, none of it would decide what you deserved. That idea is fragile. It has to be protected every single day. Every time a judge takes a phone call and lets it change a ruling, that idea gets smaller. Every time someone in power makes a quiet call and gets a quiet result, ordinary people lose a little more faith that the system works for them too. I wasn't going to let that happen in my courtroom. Not that day, not any day. DeShawn Carter didn't need a congressman. He needed a judge who would listen, who would look at the full picture, who would apply the law with both firmness and humanity. That's not a special favor. That's the job. And Grandma Lorraine, 71 years old, managing her illness, receiving a portion of her grandson's overnight hospital wages every month so she can afford her medication. She deserved to have someone do the job right. They both did. We all do. I'll leave you with something simple that I've carried my whole career. Justice isn't a complicated word. It just means that when you walk through that door, what happens to you depends on the facts, the law, and your character. Not on your bank account, not on your connections, not on who picked up a phone that morning. If we protect that, we protect something worth protecting. If we let it erode quietly, one favor at a time, we lose something that's very hard to get back. So protect it in your community, in your conversations, in the way you treat people when you have even the smallest amount of power over them. Every day, in small ways, we are all deciding what kind of country we want to live in. Choose carefully. God bless you. Take care of each other. And if this story stayed with you, pass it along to someone who needs to hear it today.